The Crescent City is always full of exciting affairs. Award-winning journalist and social media influencer Casey Ferrand has entertaining conversations about the people, places, and events in the greater New Orleans area so you can stay in the know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
All right, thank you for tuning in to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. I'm Casey Ferrand, and we always have the pleasure of meeting some amazing people from our city, some great talents, great entrepreneurs, and business owners. And today is no different. We have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Lana Joseph Ford, the CEO of High-Level Speech and Hearing Center. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Are you you're a NOLA girl?
I would say so, yes.
That was a trick question. She actually told me she's from Marrero, but we're not going to hold it against her because, you know, we love you all the same. Tell me a little bit about yourself, just as a professional. What do you do?
Sure. So I'm a doctor of audiology. A lot of people don't know what that is. An audiologist is a hearing specialist. And most recently, I'll say in 2007, it was a profession that only required a master's degree. But they grandfathered it into the doctoral program. So now you have to receive a doctorate in order to practice and perform any services to any of the patients. So some of the things I specialize in include hearing aids, hearing tests, vestibular assessments, which has to do with balance and dizziness, and also oral rehab, which has to do with speech-language pathology, as well as a combo of hearing aid devices and rehabilitation.
I love the fact that you say all these big words and then you break it down for us because, you know, us regular folk don't know what all that is, but it's important stuff. Yes. I mean, it's something that you have dedicated your life to because of your own issues or experience with speech pathology and speech impediments.
Exactly. And when I was a little girl, I knew I had a speech impediment. And I always tell people that I knew this because I couldn't pronounce the word strawberry. My cousins, because our cousins are our best friends, right? They're our first best friends, where they are also our first bullies as well. And so they would call me Strawberry.
Because they knew you couldn't say it?
Because they knew I couldn't say it. And I just remember suffering with that for several years until about the 7th grade. And in 7th grade, through Jefferson Parish School System, I was able to receive speech therapy services. And it only took me 3 months until I was fully healed and fully recovered from that speech impediment. So I made it a goal of mine to provide early intervention services for children so that they don't have to endure the same amount of time that I had to before they received speech therapy.
And how old were you at that time?
I was 4 years old when I was called Strawberry, yes.
Wait, so you had difficulty saying the word strawberry.
I did,
and
yes.
You also said you used to have an overbite.
I did.
So that affected your speech as well.
It did. Very interesting thing. And that's sometimes something that I have to remind my therapist about is that, you know, there's some type of collaboration or some type of associations with every single different health system or health part of your body. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was dentistry in my dental work and speech issues. The combination of them both, it really hindered my speech performance. And so I was able to receive therapy, got braces, and then I didn't have to worry about the problem so much anymore.
And it hasn't been a problem since. So.
It hasn't, exactly. It hasn't been a problem since. 3 months of intervention and boom, it's gone. And
is that the normal?
That's not always the normal. It depends on the child. But for me, it was simply that I was an A student, which my mom and we believed that might have been the reason why I was missed for so many years, because I wasn't giving the school system any problems. I was still making really good grades. I wasn't someone who stuck out so much, right? Mm-hmm. The schools tend to focus on the people who have behavioral problems and those who actually have disorders and things that they can see. Mm-hmm. For me, I wasn't that person. I didn't have a behavioral issue. I didn't have a disorder that was visible. It was something that only became visible when I spoke. Right. So I think that's why it took so long before they provided me with the therapy. And what people don't realize is what comes along with that. So I had self-esteem issues. I had lack of confidence when speaking publicly, which is funny because now I'm here talking to you.
I see you at public events all the time now. Yeah.
So true, so true. And that's just a testament to what early intervention could do. And I just want kids to be able to come into the system without having to worry about that problem at all.
And it's amazing how that experience at 4 years old led to you becoming an audiologist.
Exactly.
And that's the part that kind of like really is astounding, is that it stuck with you so much that you wanted to better the lives of other children as you became an adult.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is that why you started the business?
That's exactly why I started the business. I just didn't want them to have to go through the same thing that I did.
And then talk about day to day. What is life like as Dr. Lana Joseph Ford as an audiologist?
Well, because I'm more of the CEO now, I don't get to interact with patients as much. But I'll tell you, it's one of my favorite things about being an audiologist is seeing patients every single day, helping people who walked into my office not being able to hear and are able to leave being able to hear almost normally. It brings so much joy to me. So because I am CEO now, I have to find other ways of getting patient contact and getting them to come into the office. So like yesterday was my birthday, and thank you. And my team bought a birthday cake for me. So I got all of the patients that were in the waiting room, and we had a birthday party just for me, and it was so fun. That's and so sweet. Cute.
So I know you actually have some patients that are pretty popular, pretty well known.
Yes.
We'll talk about some of that coming up in the next segment, and we'll also talk about just some of the things you've seen throughout your profession as far as hearing problems are concerned within the New Orleans community, and specifically among Black men and the minority community here. So stick around. We'll be right back with more from Dr. Lana Joseph Ford of High Level Speech and Hearing Center. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original, In the Know. Welcome back to In the Know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
Welcome back to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. I'm here with Dr. Lana Joseph Ford of the High Level Hearing and Speech Center. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you again for having me.
It's a pleasure talking to you about just kind of the work you're doing with your business, but also within the community. And you were telling me earlier about some of the things you've seen as far as hearing disabilities and speech impediments within children right here in New Orleans. I mean, some of the numbers and statistics are kind of skewed as it relates to certain communities right here. So tell me a little bit about what you're finding within the school system and children here in New Orleans.
Sure. So part of what we do is we go into the school systems, the daycare centers, and we provide the speech and hearing screening services to the different centers. And what we've done in the past, we've started tracking all of that information. So we'll take a bunch of information, we'll throw it on a big Excel spreadsheet and kind of crunch the numbers. Now, Louisiana statistics show that about 10% of the students in the school system are going to fail. Interestingly enough, with our aggregate reports,
you're going to fail your hearing test.
Yes,
is that what you're saying?
The speech and hearing assessments. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And our aggregate reports actually show that number is much larger. It actually ranges between 15 to 25%, depending on which school we're at. So I think that's a very alarming statistic because one of the other questions is it just centered in New Orleans? Is that the statistic in New Orleans? Is it 10% an average across Louisiana? So if that's the case, then that shows that in New Orleans we're having a greater problem with speech and hearing issues. It's just something that we need to really grant more access to.
So are students being tested at a certain age within the school system? Is it a requirement? How does that work?
Yes, it is a requirement. The State Education Act requires that students are screened in odd grade levels from pre-K on up until 12th grade. So every year or every other year, depending on what grade they are in, they should be checked for hearing issues. Speech is something that's not assessed as much, which is why I think we have a greater percentage of children who actually fail the speech as opposed to the hearing test.
Okay. I don't remember being tested often, that often, at least when I was younger. I remember eye exams were kind of common, but is this new standards, or is this
not
just something that wasn't practiced as much as it should have been?
Exactly. That's a standard that we've had for years, and I do mean years. And it's something that's not necessarily always done. I will applaud the schools here in New Orleans simply because we're in most of them, and we make sure that those kids receive the services that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Right. And you actually have worked with 66 schools and daycares.
Yes, we have 66 partners here in the city, and we're very, very happy to have them and support them. And among those partners are larger corporations, larger institutions, and we appreciate the fact that we can have access to these kids, and we appreciate the school nurses who provide us with the access to the kids.
And then also, what do the statistics say about Black males and their issues with hearing or speech difficulties?
Sure. So I'm sure there's something around that shows exact numbers, but as a company with High Level Speech and Hearing Center, what we've done is we've tracked the number of kids that we have that come into our office for speech therapy, as well as the demographics. And what we've seen is that the majority, and I would say maybe about 65% of the children that we provide speech therapy to are Black males. And considering some 65%.
of the
yes, and considering some of the other statistics that we'll see, some of the other associations that we'll see when you come to race and when you're talking about status as being disadvantaged or in disadvantaged situations, I think it's really interesting that that's the population, that's the demographic we're serving. So how does that tie into their job placement? How does that tie into their grades? Because if you can't speak and you can't hear, then you can't learn. It makes it really difficult to do it.
And you may be grouped with a group that you not necessarily should be.
That's the other thing that we see so often. I can count on about 3 hands. So about 15 cases so far that I have seen where there have been kids who have been labeled as having behavioral disorders, and they actually had a hearing loss, or they actually had difficulty with speaking. And it's really sad because, like you said, they're automatically grouped somewhere, and it's just if with a screening we can identify it, and if it's someone like me, they can have 3 months of therapy and they might be completely fine and back to making great grades. One of my kids, I remember when he came in, I remember the school nurse said, "Oh, that's who you're going to be seeing today. He's bad as hell." And that's a school nurse that says that. And so when I met the kid, of course, I'm assuming, oh, well, he must be someone who's coming in and we're going to have a problem with him. No, great kid. Found out that he just had hearing loss. Gave him some hearing aids, put him on his ears. He's making A's.
Because if he can't hear, he can't focus on what's happening in
Why
class.
would I focus?
Yeah.
Why would I focus? I can't hear what the teacher's saying.
Right.
So absolutely. And now he told me he wants to be a software engineer.
That's amazing. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Success story.
Exactly. And then it just kind of relates to how you got into where you are now. And I know before the break, I promised we would talk about some of your celebrity patients.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about your work with Drake and Tank and the Bangas.
Oh, yeah. So Tank and the Bangas, I'll start off with them. They've been a long-time patient of mine, I'll say, or long-time clients of mine. So I started really servicing them, I would say, in 2016 when we first opened. And I explained to them the importance of hearing issues as it relates to what they do. And they were very open and receptive to it. And it's true. Like even with Drake, I had the pleasure of working with him, which was like a dream come true. And even it was just amazing to see how how much they appreciated the information that I was able to provide to them. Just about, the importance of taking care of your ears, the importance of cleaning your ears, the importance of not getting on the airplane when you have a cold, because that can cause an eardrum rupture. So I've been seeing them for a while now and just making sure that the hearing is good so we can listen to that great music that they continue to put out.
Of course. We want to keep Drake performing years to come, and of course Tank and the Bangas.
Yeah, we love them.
Okay, so after the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about the outreach your business is having within our community. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original, In the Know. Welcome back to In the Know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
All right, welcome back to In the Know. We've been sitting down with Dr. Elena Joseph Ford, the CEO of High Level Hearing Center. You have 3 locations.
Yes.
2 in New Orleans, 1 in Harahan. Still looking to open more?
Still looking to open more. Expansion is definitely on our radar. We're talking about expanding into Baton Rouge, and maybe that's something that might come about towards the end of 2019.
Okay, we'll keep y'all abreast on what's happening over there. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about the amount of people you have reached in this community with your services. So far, 20,000 plus patients have come through your doors, or you have served in schools. And
Exactly. And when you say those numbers, it seems, especially with me being there from the very beginning, and I remember when I was dumpster diving to try to get all of the equipment and all of the furniture and things that we needed, and cleaned it up, of course, and reupholstered it. But my point is, like, just starting from the very, very bottom and hoping that people would actually allow us an opportunity to see them and to serve them. And they have. We have 5 out of 5 star ratings on Facebook, Google, healthyhearing.com. We were ranked as 2018 best speech language pathologist, and we've just had so much success.
And then how long has it been since you've been in business?
Only 3 years. We started on Martin Luther King Day. So that was January 18th, 2016.
And you are flourishing.
And we're flourishing, yes.
You're also donating money to local projects, community projects. How much money has been put toward efforts in this community?
We've put about $50,000, if not more than that, towards community efforts. And that's just because we really, really wanted to support the community in everything that we possibly could support them in. If it's a health initiative, if it's donating to the school so that the kids could go to Costa Rica, so they could learn about other cultures, we're doing it all. And we're intentionally doing it because our goal and our focus is to support the community, period.
Yeah. And also, you've been working on an initiative, the Village Initiative, to collaborate with other medical professionals and bring those services together that are sometimes collaborative, and you even experience with your issues back in the past. So talk about that initiative, the Village Initiative.
Sure. So with the Village Initiative, our goal is to collaborate with other healthcare providers, whether it's a physician, whether it's a mental health specialist, if it's a dentist, a chiropractor. We want to make sure that we provide all of the kids and our adults with resources to other healthcare providers. Just because of the reason that, like you mentioned, with me, I had a speech impairment, but I also had an overbite. But I wouldn't have never known that the overbite and the speech impairment were associated. I would have never known that. Thankfully, I had a great dentist and a great speech therapist who recommended that I go to that dentist. So we want to make sure that we provide our adults, our children, with the resources through those other physicians and healthcare providers out there in the community.
Where is that? Is that a central location, or is it just kind of a collaborative effort?
It's a collaborative effort. Because everything is an app nowadays, we created an app so that we can collaborate with the physicians and healthcare providers.
So it's a referral program?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's a referral system.
So if you have a patient who comes to you who has an issue and you see that there's a need somewhere else, you can refer them out to other like-minded medical professionals.
Exactly. We do it anyway, but now we have an organized way of doing it.
So it's an app called Village Initiative?
Yes.
Okay. You can download that on, I'm assuming, Apple and Google Play and all those stores.
Yes, but it is something that's only allowed to be downloaded by our physicians and our healthcare providers in the network. So unfortunately it's not that available or accessible to other patients and folks in the community. It's for internal use, and it gets the job done.
Right. Yeah, because you can easily communicate with each other.
Exactly.
And then also you're working on an employer health program.
Yes.
Which obviously healthcare and insurance is always one of those issues. It's something that's hard to come by. And if you don't have an employer that provides it, you could go weeks, months, years without seeking medical treatment because you can't afford it.
That's so true. And we see that all the time. I can't tell you how many times we've had patients come in and they've needed assistance in some kind of way because they have a good job, a great job, but the insurance isn't except like we're not a provider in a network, or the insurance just refuses to pay. So we've created kind of like a gap insurance program for employers so they can offer it to their employees as well as their customers.
Okay. And this is accepted at most medical providers?
No, it's accepted at High Level Speech and Hearing Center.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Gotcha.
something that's very specific to what we're doing. And it's just because we want to create access for everybody. I don't believe that anyone should have a barrier just because the cost of the care is too high. So we want to find a way to solve that problem. We don't want any of our patients or any of our community members in our community to have issues with accessing us.
How much does it cost for out of pocket if a patient did need to get testing that isn't offered in a school or any daycare?
It depends on where they go, right?
Okay.
So it can be anywhere from $100 all the way up to $250. If they need a hearing aid device, which most insurances don't cover, then it could be anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000.
Wow.
So it can get really expensive. So that's another reason why we want to make sure that we offer this program to people who work really hard, honestly. And the only issue is that their insurance might not cover the cost of the service.
Should adults be taking advantage of this too?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Adults should be taking advantage of it. Children, the adults can have their children or their family members who are intermediate family participate in it. That's why we didn't want to have it only centered around the employees, but also have the employers able to access it or offer it, to their customers.
All right. And then, of course, you are not only a CEO, you're a doctor, you're an entrepreneur. And I want to talk a little bit more after the break about some of the work you're doing to help promote entrepreneurship among our young people in New Orleans. So we'll talk to you more about that after the break. Stick around.
You're listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We'll be right back. You are listening to a BAMM Network original, In the Know. Welcome back to In the Know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
Welcome back to In the Know. I'm Casey Ferrand. We're here with Dr. Lana Joseph Ford, who is a close personal friend of Drake. She told us about that a little earlier. What is that like? You've met him. You've worked with him up close and personal. So what's he like?
Yes, I have. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Not so much what you would expect from someone who has a Grammy and also over $100 million, right?
And lots of fans.
And lots of fans and could pretty much walk in anywhere and get whatever. Right.
And be recognized.
Right. Right. He's a very nice guy. His entire team, the entire OVO crew, they're very nice people. And I love being a partner of theirs.
How did that even come about?
It was just a matter of knowing someone who knew someone. And also a matter of just doing things the right way and doing a good job at
Having a good reputation at what you do.
That's right.
And so basically what you do for him is, I guess, provide earpieces for
That's
stage.
Right.
Okay.
That's exactly what I do. So the custom earpiece that he's wearing now, the mold, I created that mold.
Okay.
Yeah.
You famous. You on stage every night with Drake. That's awesome. So I know, you have created a platform to teach and encourage entrepreneurship among young adults and even children, teens in our community. And you're working with on a partnership with NORD.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit and what you're working on.
Sure. So we started our partnership with NORD about 3 years ago. So from the very beginning, the first summer that we were actually open. And in the partnership, our goal was to provide speech and hearing services to the kids over the summer, because obviously over the summer, they're not at school. And the majority of them, if they're getting services in school, they're not getting it elsewhere. Although we do encourage it, but more than likely it's not happening due to transportation issues. Mom might not be able to get off from work and bring them over to another clinic to receive speech therapy. So they get it done right there in the school. Well, to avoid the kids from missing anything and not receiving the therapy, we created, a summer enrichment type of speech therapy and hearing program where they would be provided the service and they won't have to worry about trying to start from scratch once they begin the next school semester.
Okay. So you, just like the summer, you kind of lose everything you did the year before because you're not continuing that.
You don't use it, you lose it. That's right. That's
Exactly.
right. And there's no one instructing the kid and telling them, hey, don't hold your tongue like that, or put your tongue between your teeth, or hey, make sure you put your hearing aid on so you can go and have class and listen and be able to hear your teacher. So it's a way for us to keep them in the rhythm of things.
Gotcha. And let's touch on that a little bit too. The signs that a child may need to be tested or may have an impediment.
Sure.
What can parents look for?
So with a speech impediment, some of the signs for children that are really young, because, it's one thing when a child can say, hey, I feel like I can't hear, or hey, my ear hurts. But it's another thing when you're talking about babies who can't really advocate for themselves. So some of the signs would be like maybe pulling on their ears, tapping on their ears, excessive crying. Speech language delay is a sign of ear infection issues. So that's something that we really pay close attention to. That's a question we always ask on the case history whenever we see kids. Hey, how often do they have an ear infection? Because likely those are related. The speech delay and ear infections are really related. In fact, it is known that by the age of 1 year old, at least 1/3 of children have had at least one ear infection.
And it may have not been detected?
Hopefully it was detected.
Okay.
But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just, oh, they're crying. They can communicate why. So sometimes it goes unnoticed.
Which is sad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you continue to do the work and advocate on their behalf.
Exactly. And that's why they should have annual testing done. A baby cannot tell you, they can't vocalize that, hey, my ear hurts. No, so that's why it's important to have an annual hearing test done. That's why it's important to have the school screenings. That's another reason why the state made that a rule and regulation for the school system to follow, is because they can't advocate for themselves. Right. Just like my baby I was telling you guys about earlier, that he couldn't express himself. He couldn't say, oh, I have a hearing loss, because hearing loss occurs gradually. Maybe he thought that was just the way that everybody hears. Who knows if he didn't know any different.
Right, that's true. And then also, I wanted to leave some time for you to talk about your encouragement of young people and how they can grow $1 million net worth by the age of 30. I wish I could have got there. Didn't make the cut. But how are you teaching this? How is this a possibility?
Sure. So one thing that we're going to do this year, it's something very new, is we're going to partner with whoever we can. We're thinking NORD right now to provide entrepreneur camps. And I do believe I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. So I truly believe that the combination of education and entrepreneurship can lead to overcoming challenges. I grew up in a single parent household in the hood of Marrero, which I am not embarrassed about at all. So represent Marrero.
It's so funny when people talk about where they came from, their whole voice and just everything just changes.
Everything code switching.
Yes,
code
switch. Right quick.
And so I had to utilize my education to propel me. But I always tell people I'm successful because I am a doctor, but I'm free because I'm an entrepreneur. And that freedom comes with not having any debt, because I was able to create these businesses that grew and resulted in good financial productivity. And now I'm able to take that same money and invest it back into the community. So I think a combination of education, entrepreneurship, and remembering where you came from so that you can always give back to your community. I think those are key things. It's like a cycle. The more you give, the more you receive. It's true. And
it's definitely proof in your life of what you've been doing. And so I'm still trying to find out how to become a millionaire before 30.
Sure. So I can give a couple of quick tips. Number one is make sure you're always putting your money in interest earning accounts.
Okay.
So always do that.
So your savings account should be interest earning?
Make sure it earns you some interest. If it's 0.2%, you look for another savings account. Look for another one. Number two is paying back your student loans. It's something that people don't want to do.
I'm almost done.
Yeah, it's something people don't want to do, but you have to do it. You have to get rid of the bad debt before you can collect the good debt. And what's good debt? That leads me to my point number 3. Invest in real estate.
Right.
That's one of the quickest ways to gain wealth.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Lana, Dr. Joseph.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right. After the break, we'll talk to you more about your love of New Orleans and your efforts to give back to this community.
Awesome.
All right, stay with us.
You're listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original, In the Know. Welcome back to In the Know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
Welcome back to In the Know. I'm Casey Ferrand. I'm here with Dr. Lana Joseph Ford, owner, CEO of High Level Hearing and Learning Center.
High Level Speech and Hearing Center.
High Level Speech and Hearing Center. Where can people find you?
Sure. So I can be found, we have a couple of offices, and the first office that we opened was in Harahan. So they can visit the Harahan office. It's 5640 Jefferson Highway, or they can visit the Uptown office, which is located at 4219 Magnolia Street. In the Uptown office, we have two offices, one that's pediatric and one that's adult. So
we didn't touch much on that, the needs for adults to seek treatment or, get tested.
Yeah.
What's the prevalence among older adults?
Oh my goodness. So I would say about the age of 65 is when older adults start to realize they have hearing loss. Because hearing loss occurs gradually, it's something that doesn't just happen all of a sudden, and they aren't, you don't wake up most of the time. Mm-hmm. You don't wake up and say, oh, I have hearing loss. So that's why we have to always get our hearing checked, just like we get our teeth cleaned every year, get our annuals as women, get those done. Your annual for hearing should be done the same way. Okay. It should be done every single year to just make sure that there is no hearing loss.
All right. And then the next thing I wanted you to do is we're going to talk about your love story, your love of New Orleans. This is something I like to give everyone a chance to do and just talk about why they love New Orleans. And you're from New Orleans, of course.
Yes.
Where'd you go to high school again?
John Ehret High School in Marrero.
We know the place. And you went to college away?
I did. I started off at Xavier, and Hurricane Katrina hit and ruined my freshman year. And so I ended up at Nicholls State, which is where I met my sweetheart. So I don't regret that.
Of course.
And after Nicholls State, that's when I went to UNO, got my master's degree in business administration. And then I went to Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, I thought you were going to say in Washington State. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, wow.
No.
But then you came back home.
I did.
And started your businesses here, of course. Because
I did.
Why?
I had to come back home to my people.
Right.
And I would always say that when I was in Atlanta doing my residency. And then I had to kind of think about it. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't take offense to that. But it's true. New Orleans, the culture here, the people here, it's my love for the people. That made me want to come back. It's just irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. I remember I was walking to the VA hospital. I was doing an internship there, and there was this gentleman we were both at a red light because there's stuff for, jaywalking over there. Right. And and the gentleman, he sees me, and he sees that I'm walking across the street on this red light, and I turn around at him, and he starts to follow me. I'm like, hey, don't come following behind me now and get hit by a car. And I was joking. Mm-hmm. Now, if I would tell you that, you would laugh. But he immediately said, oh, I'm not following behind you. Like, he was like snappy about it. I was like, okay, this is my last time joking with y'all St. Louis folks.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. So it's just a different vernacular. It's different way that we do things. I remember in St. Louis, early was late. And early was on time and late was on. Wait, how does it go? Early was
if you're on time,
yes.
You're late.
Yes,
if you're late.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
yes.
that one.
And I was like, "What? See, I can't even understand it. See, I can't even phantom that, right? Because we just come." On time.
Whenever the party starts, we're there.
We are the party.
We bring the party.
Favorite thing is people.
Okay, so I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Uh-oh.
This is the fun part.
Okay.
Okay. So give me your first response. Don't think about it. But jazz or bounce?
Bounce. What? Bounce.
So what's on your playlist right now?
Oh my goodness.
Probably not either of those. Bounce or jazz.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah. I listen to bounce music. Shout out to Big Frida.
To hype you up.
Yes, I do. Whenever I exercise. And yes, ma'am.
And then you're a West Banker, so I'm going to ask you this.
Yes.
Ferry or Crescent City Connection?
Ooh. Crescent City connection.
It's faster.
It is.
But you don't get the like experience of the breeze through your hair.
Now,
right?
before the $1, like when we had to pay $1, it was definitely the ferry.
Oh yeah.
See,
that was not long ago that they
Uh-huh.
finally done away with the ferry toll. I mean the
used
the
to take
bridge
it every
tolls.
Saturday. Every Saturday, took the
So
ferry.
you took the ferry into town on
all
weekends
the time.
by yourself or with your parents?
By myself and with my parents.
Okay, 5-star restaurant or neighborhood joint?
Neighborhood joints. What?
Which ones?
Anyone.
You don't have a favorite? I mean, in New Orleans though, like there's no big not a whole lot of big chain restaurants anyway. So like
No.
we can eat any local spot and it's just like a neighborhood joint anyway.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, Mardi Gras or Super Sunday?
Ooh, Super Sunday. Super Sunday.
Were you big on that growing up?
No, I wasn't. That's why it's hard for me to, because I had never experienced Super Sunday before.
Me either.
Oh.
I know. I grew up in the East. You knew that. So there wasn't much of the New Orleans culture there. Like you had to come into the city to get it. And yeah.
Same on the West Bank.
We're like so far removed, and it's so crazy. We act like it's so far to go to get to the
All
city
the
or
time.
to the East or to the West Bank, and people don't want to go.
All
To
the
this day, I
time.
don't really care to go to
Same.
come to work on the West Bank.
I love the West Bank.
I get it, yeah. So we're wrapping up, but again, where can people? How can they follow you on social media? Anything?
Sure. So I on my Instagram at Dr. J the Hearing Doc, on Facebook at Dr. Lana Joseph, and they can also visit our website for our company. It's www.highlevelhearingnola.com.
All right, Dr. Joseph, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
I can't wait to see everything else you're getting involved in and what you're doing in the community.
Thank you.
All right, after the break, stay right here. We'll have Tracey Wiley with more of What's to Know in the Know. We'll be right back.
You're listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original, In the Know. Welcome back to In the Know. Here's your host, Casey Ferrand.
All right, welcome back to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. We're here with my girl, Tracey Wiley, for more of What's to Know in the Know. And you know what? This week I asked you to talk about, I asked you this question and you didn't want to answer it. And I was like, well, why not? But there's something that all New Orleanians identify with. Yeah. And that is what
high school you went to.
What high school you went to. Like when you ask someone where they went to school, the question usually means where they went to high school.
Yeah, like it's the same thing. It's so funny when I ask people, well, who's your people? What's your last name? It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, I mean, I went to a very small little school that isn't even in existence anymore. So
yeah. We actually found out we went to the same high school. I went there from 3rd grade until I graduated. So it was like a K through 12 school, small Christian school in New Orleans East that is no longer in existence.
No, not at all.
But yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that, other people went to the school other than the people I knew there, because my class was like 25 people.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. I mean, and the thing is, like, I didn't hang with any. I mean, I had the kids that I saw every day, but all of my other friends, like my neighborhood friends, they were like at Redeemer or 35 or St. Mary's. So yeah, I was always at their functions.
Yeah. So you got to experience like, the talent shows and like, school dances and stuff like that. So I need some insight. Like I didn't get that. Like I feel like I missed out as a child because my school, as you know, didn't have like school dances. We had a homecoming.
Right. And there was no music.
We weren't allowed to dance. We took pictures and gave out like awards for best hair, best dress person.
No, that's one thing I definitely miss. And I'm curious to know if the kids these days still have that. We would always be at school dances, at football games, meet up at the plaza, talent shows. Like I remember dressing up with my girlfriends, like dressing alike, going to talent shows.
Yeah. I did dress alike when I had the opportunity to dress alike because we had, uniforms. But yeah, that was good times. I don't think kids these days have that.
No, a lot has changed. I have a godchild. She's 17, and she goes to, what is it? The school on the West Bank.
You don't even know the name.
No, wait, Carr. She goes to Carr.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, she goes to Carr, and she loves it. And she definitely has a lot of school pride. And I know that's back in the day that, you know, you repped your school real hard at football games. You know, if you went to 3-5, you repped it really hard.
But that's the thing. Carr is one of those schools that has been around and is still around and hasn't really much changed, like names or locations. Has it? It may have changed locations, but there's not that like long-standing history and attachment to schools in New Orleans like there once was.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the people who I know that went to Kennedy.
My parents went to Kennedy.
They probably still to this day rep their school. Like they are going to their reunions.
Like Kennedy was gone after Katrina, but now it's like they've made Lake Area School the Kennedy campus. Yeah, I know. It's weird. That's the thing though. Like so many of these schools got taken over by charter school organizations and like changed the names, and they don't necessarily have the same history. A lot of them tried to keep the names per se, but not really. They try to keep some type of I guess the names on the building, but that's about it. But a lot of the buildings are new.
Yeah, I mean, I look at like John Mack. That's bricolage now.
Okay.
So, I mean, but yet you still have John Mack on the front. But again, it's not the same. It's not those same neighborhood schools like we used to have.
Neighborhood schools, that's no longer a thing because kids get bused from uptown to Gentilly, from the east to uptown. It's just...
I woke up one morning to go work out early, like at 5:30. And when I saw a little kid, she had to have been like 6-7 years old, standing at the bus stop. I was like, really? Is that what we're doing now? And like you said, this kid's probably getting bused from Gentilly to...
They got to pick up all the kids all around town. That sucks. But it's kind of the system we're in now. I don't know if it'll ever really go back to what it once was. That's why it's called nostalgic.
That's a good conversation to have, though.
We should talk to somebody about that, right? Other than ourselves. Right. Wait, okay, so I know this is a subject that neither of us really like to talk about, like what school we went to, because our school was so small, nobody really knew what it was. Yeah. But so you know that old school song, DJ Jubilee, like, what's the name of your school? What did you used to say?
Booker T.
Are you serious?
I had the same uniform.
Oh, that's smart. We did have the same uniform. So I would, yeah, you used to lie. So I guess, I used to actually say, I used to rep my school.
Oh, that's nice.
Since Tracey won't say it, I went to Faith Christian Academy.
I went to Word of Faith Academy.
But you know what? I also now to this day, like when people ask me what school I went to, I don't really say that. I say NOCA because I went to NOCA for musical theater, and people know NOCA, so it's easier to say that and have a connection to that than like a school nobody ever knew existed. It's not there anymore. There's actually a church that's there now, another church that's there now. But yeah, the good old days.
I miss the good old days. I do.
Yeah. The kids these days will never know it.
Nope.
Wait, your kids are we don't want to tell people where your kids go to school. Anyways.
Yeah, but they're in small private schools.
Take them to school.
Yeah, I bring them. Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to drop them off and pick them up. So I don't.
Such a great mom.
Yeah, I'm a tired mom. I am a tired mom. So
it's worth it though. Thank you, Tracey. Thank you for being here today. And thank you all for listening to In the Know with Casey Ferrand. Make sure you tune in next week. I'm Casey Ferrand, and this is In the Know.
This has been a BAMM Network production.